Good afternoon or good morning to whichever part of the world you're on. I was supposed to be doing a live show today with a fellow brother, but I haven't heard from him, so I'm just going to proceed by myself. That's just fine. Hopefully everything's alright with him. What I would like to do with this video is just summarize into one video, as someone requested. Someone said it would be great if I did. What's led me to my conclusion, what has led me into where I'm at now, and how I've gotten my answers. And I've put a warning label on this video for everyone, so this is a chance for everyone to back off the video, exit off the video if you're sensitive to heavy subjects such as consciousness, God, life, things of this nature. If this type of talk shakes you up, then this video is not going to be for you. And if you're not ready to have somewhat of an answer revealed to you, then exit off this video. Because most of us begin our journey with this: following the white rabbit. We begin our journey entering the rabbit hole. This is a New Age term too. But we enter a rabbit hole, meaning we start first beginning questioning our reality. Something within our lives is sparked or challenged, which in turn throws us into a loop down a hole, questioning every little bit of our reality. We become very skeptical over every experience that we're having, over the world around us, over everything. So my personal journey began with the flat earth theory. It takes something that's very, very big to switch on in your mind for you to realize something is not right with the world. And I began with the flat earth model thinking, this was before I did psychedelics, before I did any of this. I was very new to the rabbit hole, to this New Age following the white rabbit. I was under the premise that we were taught that a globe is in infinite space and we're traveling through it with no source, no direction, no guidance, no order, no structure, which proved to me no creator, no God, no divine being, no entity, no anything. We were just meaningless shooting through space. So the flat earth theory, what it did for me was show me we were not living on the earth or this model that I thought we were. And it also showed me that with that model there is no order, there is no creation, there is no creator. But many flat earthers are under the impression still that there is something in the sky, a being in the sky, an entity out there beyond themselves. And this is why I have a warning on this, because not everyone's ready to have this revealed to them. We begin our journeys very skeptical. We are hostile towards symbolism, the all-seeing eye, Freemasonry. We see these things as negative things. And I'm not saying they're positive, I'm not saying they're good, but we have hostility toward them. We dislike them. We want to expose them, if you will. And so we begin our journey studying the occults, trying to expose the secret societies, studying them, trying to study their symbolism and to realize what they mean. But we don't realize at the moment that their symbolism is speaking very answers. But again, we're very new. We're picking apart our reality one piece at a time. we begin trying to expose the government, expose these secret societies, expose this and expose that, and all we're trying to do, ultimately, is be led back into source, be led back into our spiritual self, our divine self, what we're calling God. We just want to be led back in to source. It's all we're looking for. So it wasn't until I was convinced the earth was flat at one moment of my life, because again, that proved a creator, I started studying these answers, and what I found was in all depictions of our universe and all things from male to female, everything was coming from one source. You'd have two things of duality, of opposites, coming from one source is what I was finding. And this code was in every single thing, starting with man. 2 eyes, two sides to the brain, one pineal gland, one central point. And that's exactly what this represents. Two duality being birthed from one, which is what the triangle represents, which is why they use the triangle. The triangle represents 3 sides, which is your trinity. Singularity birthing into duality, which is what you're seeing here. Your singularity splitting itself or bonding itself into duality. Because what happens is we are infinite beyond this skin. And this is what psychedelics and DMT allows you to kind of cheat and see. It is kind of a cheat, a hack. And what you realize is beyond the skin, beyond your body, because we're not the body, we're infinite. But you cannot be self-aware when you're infinite as one thing, because infinity is everything. So you have to have a duality. And that's where you have infinity and order, or time. Infinity is chaos, and time is order. And in between, you're self-aware of the two, because the two are one, and you could not be the one without the two. You could not be self-aware as one individual without the two. You need the infinite and the finite, chaos and order, to be self-aware as one being, one individual. So what you find when you kind of cheat, as I did, I took DMT, I took some psilocybin, and I visually saw this, but in our universe form. I was not just my body, I was every being. I was the universal grid, the matrix, bonding everything together. I was consciousness inside and outside of things. In life and in death, I was the night and the dark, the positive, the negative. I was the male and female. I was the writer and the creator of everything. And it's not just me, it's you, because again, none of us are the body. We are all one collective consciousness, so this is all of us. Outside the body, this is what we are. We've written this. We all did this as one collective consciousness. But again, we cannot be self-aware as one in the body without two opposites, which is infinite and finite, physical, non-physical. This is what I saw when I was going through the rabbit hole during my DMT or psychedelic trip. And what this is a fractal pattern. A fractal pattern is one that is a spiral, and this is why I say the path to enlightenment or the path through the rabbit hole is not a straight line. Because what you find is it does a wheel. It's a realization, because a reel is something that is a reel. It's a wheel. It goes around and around and around to a fixed point. And you keep going down and down and down and down, and you're never reaching this point. And when you're in that trip, you keep going through this until it finally hits you. The point at the end that you're waiting for is yourself. There was no white rabbit. You following the white rabbit into the rabbit hole was you prolonging your own awakening. Was you playing the game with yourself, with you pretending there was something outside of yourself in the sky. That you weren't already the creator, you weren't already the divine, you weren't already the point or the source that you're seeking. This is what a fractal looks like. It keeps going in and in and in, but it never changes. The pattern never changes, it repeats itself. And this is what you're going to notice right here. Look. Milky Way, long exposure, looks like fractal geometry. It's the Milky Way, time-lapsed. Looks exactly like a fractal pattern. And you can only get this produced when there is a ball, a sphere, as the sky, which matches the concave model. And that's what we're going to talk about. The southern constellations on this map right here does not work. Because when you have peoples from A, B, and C all seeing the same stars on the outside, which is the south celestial pole, there's no possible way that these people down here could all be looking at the same set of stars from where they're at. So there's just one huge problem with the stars on this map, and on a flat model it has to be a sphere. This is what I'm going to talk about. In order to have creation, what the all-seeing eye represents is the point. You have to have a point before you have any other sphere, before you have any other creation, before you have any other shape, dimension, being. Before you have anything else, you have to have a fixed point, which then expands, which is why you see the all-seeing eye, which is why you see the all-seeing eye with lines radiating out of it. That represents expansion, which is creation, the Big Bang, let there be light, boom. That's expansion, creation. And through this point, you can create any shape, any being, any structure, anything you want. Anything. So that's what it looks like. This is your northern hemisphere, and that's your southern hemisphere, both rotating in opposite sides. And you can't justify this on a flat model. Again, on this model, you have points A, B, and C all looking at the same set of stars, which is your south celestial pole, or hemisphere. They would not possibly see all the same stars from those outside points. It would have to be a ball. And here's a little reference to the fractal geometry. Unfolding from a point, everything unfolds from a point. The Wizard of Oz starts from a vortex pattern. She begins from the point. If you notice that in the Wizard of Oz, she physically puts her feet at the very center of the point and walks the yellow brick road all the way out from the center point, from the void. In order to have creation, you have to have dimension, and in order to have dimension, you have to have space. Everything cannot be coming out of one singular point on a flat model, on a flat plane, because anything coming from this point is going to be flat, where we'd all be soup. In order to have any creation, you have to have dimension and space. And that's written and that's coded through everything. So again, the principle will not change from micro to macro. Now I'm going to explain my whole journey. I'm going to explain my whole journey in this video because, like somebody said, they wanted me to cover everything, so I'm going to do so. Many people are confused by this that I've started, Order of the Black Wheel Matrix. Some people are scared of it, some people are fearing it, like it's some occult. It's not anything like that. You don't have to be a member. This is simply something that doesn't have to be in my name. I don't want all this stuff to be in my name. So I wanted to create something where people could search and have what I feel to be the answers, all the answers they seek under one thing. And I had to have it relate to the subject, Order of the Black Wheel Matrix, because the black wheel in the sky is the sky we're looking at, the celestial sphere in the sky. And it's in perfect order. This is why I stress. Everything is in perfect order, and you'll notice that this logo here has 12 sections. 12 specific sections. because everything is in order. That's why it's order of the black wheel matrix. Everything is working around a 12-sectioned wheel, if you will. 12 principles. 12 seasons, 12 zodiac houses, 12 knights of the round table. King Arthur sat in the center. So the center is your source. Remember the point I talked about. You have to have a point before you have expansion, creation. So you didn't have any of this expansion without your fixed point in the center. And thus that's where you get your King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. He had 12 Knights of the Round Table, and he sat in the center. 12 disciples for Jesus, of course. That's no different than the King Arthur story, you know. You got 12 notes, or 12, musical notes, 12 major keys. And there's 12 Olympians, or Greek gods. 12 Greek gods. Everything, 12. 12 is a very sacred number. And like I said, it's an order. Everything is in perfect order. Synchrony. To have space be outer and infinite, we would be seeing different constellations popping up, all types of crazy things. We'd see new planets, new solar systems. We'd be colliding with other things. It'd be chaotic. But it's not like that because it's in perfect order, perfect synchrony, because everything is a wheel, a perfectly structured wheel. And that brings us to our next. Before I do that, I'm going to read this here. I'm going to read this here real quick for you. Keep this in mind. Keep this figure in mind, because I'm going to read something that says, as shown in figure 3. So keep this picture in mind. In academic geometry, a point is defined as theoretically position in space without dimension. It may be any position in space. This concept accurately expresses the idea of deity. Therefore, in figure 3, we show our sphere with the dot in the center, pictorially representing our theoretical conception of position in space. By analogy, this figure represents the comprehension and inclusion of all creative forces, all forms of life, visible and invisible, in one complete whole or unit, with the center as the essence, the uno, word, or verbum. And then this is page 1 from the very same book. As the absolute, it is the source of heat, light, sound, power, and force. It is the motive of the Masonic motto, Ordo ab Caio, and the Rosicrucian motto, Omnia ab uno, all from one, because all is coming from one. The point. And then I'm going to read this section for you down here. Keep this figure in mind. The circle with the cross. Yeah? This is your crucifixion right here. Your metaphoric crucifixion. All these divisions united in one figure gives us figure 5. The cross within the circle or sphere. It indicates symbolically the inclusion of all life, animate and inanimate, within what we call deity, all the crucifixion of the divine spirit of God upon matter, both visible and invisible. This is from a Rosicrucian book that one of my friends sent me. I don't have the exact author or book title, and I'm very upset about that. If somebody knows the name of that book, I'd love to know it, but I still have yet to find out. I just know it's a Rosicrucian book, which is just like the Freemasons. So still very fundamental, very important. Okay, so when you hear about that, you hear about what I just showed you here. Your point within a circle, and I just told you what that represents to the Freemasons and to the Rosicrucians. Then you look up these. There's over 10 of these around the world. A point with a circle, and this is called a sphere within a sphere. This resembles the very exact same principle as this, which is what the elites around the world are all worshiping. There's over 10 of these balls or sculptures around the world. One is at the United Nations headquarters. Why? One is at the United Nations headquarters, and it's a wheel within a wheel. That's the name of the sculpture. Wheel within wheel. Or no, sphere within sphere, to be exact. Sorry about that. It's called Sphere Within Sphere. That's the name of this sculpture. There's over 10 of them around the world. Google where they're at. One of the main ones is the United Nations headquarters. So then you take that, and you take that, and you look at this. Here's another one, a sphere within a sphere. This one's the one at the Vatican. This is at the Vatican, a sphere within a sphere. Why is it at the Vatican? United Nations headquarters and at the Vatican. The Vatican holds a lot of answers, a lot of books we don't have access to. Why is this at the Vatican? And then this is at JFK International Space Station, which this is inner space, the celestial sphere in the center. This right here, this black ball with all the stars and constellations on it, and mind you, let me include, this is why, because remember I said everything is in perfect order, everything is working around a wheel principle. So this is why our constellations have never changed and never will. We have no new record of constellations or anything changing. They've always been drawn as animals, and we still have the same things. The zodiac houses are in perfect order, as you can see again. Zodiac houses, perfect order. Everything's a wheel. And what's so effed up about all this is this, if you could, it can be inverted, is the effed up part, is that you can invert all this and it would still work. It still works on a globe, and it still works with us being inside of a ball. However, there is nothing that can prove or show us forces sticking outside of an open surface without any enclosure. It will never be done because it's not possible. You can only have things pressed inside of an object, pressed on the inside. There can only be force from the inside of something. That's why when we have food and it's a sealed container, when we pop that container from the outside, the seal inside is now open. There's no more pressure inside. That's why we have atmospheric pressure. That's why we have pressures in the ocean. Some people say it's the weight of the water. Well, it's maybe some of the weight of the water too, but there is also a force which is pushing us back down. When we jump up, we're pushed back down. There's a force keeping all things down. So you look at that. That's why the constellations never changed, right? And then that's why, because it's right in the center and we're looking in. We're looking in. You connect all the dots, and this is what it will lead you to. I visually have seen, some people ask me where I got this idea from, and like I said, I kind of cheated, I kind of hacked. I do not encourage DMT for anyone, but that's what I did. Whatever is most on your mind when you go into these trips is what's going to come to life. Whatever you most fear or don't understand is what's going to come to life. And when I went into it, what was on my mind solely was God. God, God, God. I said, I'm not going to come out until I understand what God is. And I wasn't prepared for the answer that I got. And like I said, there's a warning label on here. If you're really not ready for this, please back off. Because not everyone needs to hear. But I wasn't prepared for what I was shown, what I was told. And it said all the time. I was saying it for myself before I even knew. Before I went into my trip. All is one. I'm not the body. I'm not this. I'm not that. I was saying these things, but I had no understanding in my mind of what I was saying. I was just saying it. All is one. I'm not the body. I'm infinite. I'm this. I'm that. I got to actually experience myself outside the body. And what you'll find is we all have this conception of a God, whatever it may be. We all have our own unique idea of what it is. And we're going through this rabbit hole to try and understand what it is. So me going through my trip, I even said, I'm not going to come back until I understand what God is. And I wasn't ready for my answer because I was posing the idea that it was something other than myself. It was something outside of me. – There was a being or something outside of me that did this. So when I was pulled back from my body and it stripped me from my body and it showed me myself beyond, I was scared shitless. I was terrified. Anyone who's been there has said the same thing. Even Terence McKenna, who is a DMT guru, has said it is impossible for you not to be scared shitless in this state of mind. Because it is chaotic. It is disorder. You are literally every single thing in existence. The trees, the walls, the most insignificant things you can think of are conscious, are alive. And you're aware of all of it. Because you are all of it. Because everything is alive. Because everything is one. Everything is connected. Universe. Uni means one. And it begins with you. You can spell it either way. U-N-I. Una is one. Or you. Y-O-U. You. It's you. You're the universe. You are. You are the I am. You are the God, the Creator. Beyond the body. That's why we are not aware of ourselves. And that's why I say the path of enlightenment is not a straight line. The rabbit hole is not a straight line. The snake biting its own tail represents you going through the rabbit hole. You're going around trying to find God. You're like Dorothy trying to find the Oz, right? You're trying to find the Oz. So you go through all of this stuff to try and find it. And when you get to the end and you get your answer, you've bitten your own tail because you're realizing your own self. Holy shit. It was me the whole time. Thus giving you the snake biting its own tail, which represents infinity, because it starts where it began and it ends where it began and it begins where it starts and then blah blah blah. You get it. That's why I love Osho's phrase or saying of never born, never died. Because when you realize yourself beyond the body, you realize you're infinite. You've never been birthed. You've never died. You're realizing yourself. This is the realization of self. But again, in an infinite number of veils, an infinite number of tries, infinite number of perceptions, we are all one collective consciousness. And this is something flat earthers are not ready to hear because flat earthers are matching the Bible with their model. And like I said, most of them are still under the impression, as I was, that there is a being outside the universe. That's the killing of the ego. You being stripped back from your veil and shown that you're not the body, you are not the one you see in the mirror, is the killing of the ego. It's the killing of the idea you've had of yourself. And why you fear death is because the idea you have of yourself. You feel it's the end, forever. But it's only the end for the idea you've created for yourself. And once you realize this while alive, you're free. You don't have to fear death, you fear nothing. Because you are. I am that I am. Always have, always will be. Never birthed, never died. I am. As we all are. This is where I got this on my trip, though. It was in my psychedelic trip that I saw this. You've matched the micro to the macro. I know I don't have all the scientific answers to back this model, and I know that'll frustrate many people. I know that will disengage many people, make them want to just back off. And I respect that. But I know 100% this is correct. The answers may not all be there, the science may not all be there, but as we progress as a collective consciousness, this is going to be the solidified model. This information is going to be restored to the public This is going to make its way back into history or back into the current from history, because this is what has always been depicted from ancient life. I posted a video from Manly P. Hall saying, the ancients never thought of the earth as just a rock in space floating around. No, they thought of it as the actual reflection of man. There's no other way you can misconstrue that. It's literal, from micro to macro, as above so below, because the two are in fact one. They work on the same principles because they are one. So there is no change in either one. In either creation, it will repeat. It is reflected into the macro or into the micro from the macro, and vice versa. The two are one. This is how you get led back into source. So many people are looking for spiritual awakening or for their enlightenment, for source, to connect back with God, and this is how you do it. You have to acknowledge that there is a code to creation. It's called the golden ratio or Fibonacci sequence, which is also called God's thumbprint. There's more than one. And that's this. Duality being birthed from the singularity. That's the triangle. Singularity birthing duality. 2. You get 3 sides, which is your trinity, from singularity. 1 birthing into 2. Through all things. You acknowledge the code to creation, you can find your source. Well, if these aren't my 2 eyes, then where are my 2 eyes? If these are just distractions, or if these are just the illusion, where's the source coming from? Makes you question. So where's source? Again, acknowledge the code to creation. In all things, you have duality birthing, and this is from the Freemasons right here, mind you. You have duality birthing your singularity birthing your duality. The point in the center is birthing your duality. And that's why I said, again, it has the radiation coming out, because that represents expansion. You couldn't have anything, especially duality, anything, without your point, your source, the beginning, if you will. But remember, there is no beginning because it never was. That's the ironic part. That's the ironic part about infinity. And some human beings will beat their brains dry trying to understand infinity because they can't understand something that never begun. How can we be here but never have begun? That's the meaning of infinity. And the finite mind cannot understand infinity because we are existing within the finite right now. Everything we know has a beginning and an end. So for us to think otherwise is beyond us, outside of us. But that's why I say, where you have infinity, you have time. Chaos, order. Chaos, order. And in between them both is you, here and now. Utilizing both, the infinite and the finite, to be self-aware now. And that's how you come to the realization. I was never born, and I never die. I am here now. Now. Always. Eternity. In this form, or the next. I'm here. I'm not past. I'm not future. I'm here. You're here. We're all here. And this goes with the very same principle here. From micro to macro, as above, so below, yeah? As within, so without. Same principle here. Microcosm, macrocosm. What you're seeing here, the black, yeah, is what you're seeing here, in the black center. And you notice how the light is being bent around the inside. It's bending around this, because light bends around your plane of inertia. This is your sinking in counter space. This is a formless void. This is counterspatial. It's destroying space. Nothing with mass or volume can exist here. This is formless energy. It's nothing. It's like a shadow. A shadow cannot affect physical phenomenon, cannot harm physical phenomenon, cannot influence the physical, because a shadow is just that. It's a posterior. It's not really there. That's all this is. So for flat earthers to say they live on a counterspatial void, it makes no sense, zero logical sense, and they don't like speaking to people like me. Because I've yet to meet anyone explain logically how you live on a void which can be proven is a void, formless energy. A posterior, it's a shadow. But back on topic here. The microcosm, which is you, taking in light, convergent, divergent force is present, and the macrocosm, convergent, divergent force is present, taking in light, both of them. And that's your eye right there, taking in your light. Taking in light while projecting your reality out. Convergent, divergent. And that's your from micro to macro. And now, to cover this again here, singularity birthing duality. Singularity birthing duality. There's a lot going on here, so I'll explain it. Here you've got your Fibonacci pattern going this way, and of course the two hemispheres are opposite, so of course the opposite of, right is left. So the Fibonacci pattern is going the opposite way on this side. That's how it works with the Earth's hemispheres. Water rotates this way on that side, water rotates on this side. Hurricanes rotate with this way on this hemisphere, hurricanes rotate this way on the hemisphere. Opposites. Right side of your brain, left side of your brain. And you notice I got the infinity loop around there. Because again, the point in the middle is source. That's the snake biting its own tail. The source is in the center. You're biting your own tail, realizing yourself at the middle. And you see you're backwards. Your right hemisphere controls your left side of your body, and your left hemisphere controls the right side of your body. So you're crisscrossed. Time is an illusion. Time does not work on a line, as we've been taught. Past, present, future. The past and present exist now. We think of time on a line. I've spoken about this before. I have a video of this on my YouTube channel because I've made this picture here. Not the snake itself biting its own tail, but I've added all the writing into it to give my own interpretation. But the video is called The Resetting of Consciousness on my YouTube. If you have interest on that, you can get more in depth on this picture. I'm not going to go fully into it because it's kind of off topic. But yeah, you can... Basically, the birthing of Christ, they say, was like around 4 or 6 BC, if you Google that or look it up, between 4 and 6 BC, which on a time scale, I've always said this before, it puts you just off from the center point, which again, they're hiding source. They're stopping us from figuring out source is always the center point. So they had us off the point by just a little inch or so. By 4 BC, it's just off the point. Because remember, Christ was not any specific person. The birthing of Jesus Christ was the birthing of human consciousness, not just one human, the human race itself. It was the birthing and story of us becoming human beings. Consciousness, awareness, self-awareness. It's all of us. We are all the point because we're all the point at which the entire universe is being seen from. We are all the center of the universe. We are all this point. We are all Christ consciousness. We are all conscious. We are all this one being that's being held up and worshipped and waited for in the sky. We are all this. Oops. Many people have asked me, is the universe infinite with this understanding? Can the universe be infinite? The answer is yes. Yes. And is it my opinion the universe is infinite? Yes. Infinite, always. Expanding, converging, and diverging. It's moving inward and moving outward, expanding. Both, yes. I've posted another video, Concave Earth Part 2, I believe it's called, where I fully get into, or no, it's Part 1, where I fully get into the Nazis and how they entered the poles and how there's more land beyond the poles, inside the poles, because if you go in, there's supposedly another world with another central sun, and so on and so on and so on. So my opinion is this is where the Russian doll theory comes from. A doll within 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 a doll. You get the point. The more you go in, the more you're never going to get to the source. That's just what I talked about earlier with the whole fractal pattern. The fractal pattern. You think you're getting to the center because you're focused on the point, so you keep spiraling down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole, and you keep thinking you're going to get to the center, but you will do this forever until you finally realize it hits you. Right on your head until it hits you. You are the center point you're trying to reach. You are the center of creation. You are the point. You're the point you're chasing. The point is not external from you. It's being projected from the internal, from the inside, and it's being housed right here within you. So you don't need to chase the point, you acknowledge it within yourself. It's as simple as that. But the universe is infinite in this concept, because if you want to think, I've said this before, if you want to think bigger on a macrocosmic level, think bigger into the universe, then the bigger and bigger and bigger you go, you're still going to be trying to reach that point in the center. You're still going to be trying to reach yourself. So the bigger and bigger and bigger you go, you'll still run into self. The smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller you go, you'll still run into self. And you'll do this to infinity until you realize you are what you're chasing. So what I mean by going smaller and smaller and smaller is, well, when we look into microscopic cells in our bodies and stuff, we see the same patterns. The central core surrounded by the membrane, and so if you wanted to be technical, that's a whole universe within itself right there. The smaller and smaller and smaller we dissect man, we'll see there's many universes going on inside of our bodies now. Just as to us, we're inside of this giant place and we don't know what it is. For all we know, we're inside of a more grand man, a bigger man, the macro. It would make sense too if the two are one and the same principles apply. Just an idea. But I do believe the universe is infinite. If we keep going in, we'll still be running into ourselves. This pattern will repeat. You'll keep running into the same principle. Russian doll theory. And that's where I think this picture came from. And you'll notice it's the same guy in all the realms. It's the same guy in all the realms because, like I said, you'll only run into yourself again and again and again and again and again. You're chasing your own self. You notice it's all the same guy in different realms. He began here. It doesn't matter which way you go, but let's say you began here. You're trying to think bigger, so you go to the next realm. Boom! He just ran into himself. It's the snake biting his own tail. So okay, I reached this. Now let me reach this. You think bigger. Boom! Realized his self. Okay, boom. Now let me think bigger again. Boom! The Russian doll theory. It never ends. This is the realization of self. This is the realization, the wheel, the pattern. It repeats. You will find yourself again and again and again and again. Always. Ezekiel's 4 wheels within a wheel. Your outside, inner, more inner, and then your central point. Very structured, very specific, right? Now look at all these ancient drawings. This obviously was someone making fun of us, so I just figured I'd throw it in there and show them that you can make fun of it or acknowledge the ancient history, which is showing the very same thing. You could acknowledge history, or you can mock it. Doesn't matter. It remains. Yeah, all the same thing. And again, this goes back to the same thing I showed here. 4 wheels within a wheel. There's sculptures of these all over the world. Sphere within a sphere. Sphere within a sphere. Ezekiel's 4 wheels in a wheel. Sphere within a sphere. Everything is unfolding from a void in the center. From micro, the woman, the womb, you see her belly button makes the point of creation. The place where the child is conceived, where creation begins, is from the point, as shown in the microcosm to the macrocosm, the point of expansion, the point that starts all things. There's a child there in the womb. There's your Fibonacci pattern coming out, yeah? It's always a spiral. There's your all-seeing eye everyone's terrified of. Oh no. All it's representing is expansion, creation, God, source, singularity. And there's man that fits perfectly into a wheel, into a sphere, because everything is a wheel, everything is a sphere. We did not make the wheel made us. We're simply understanding the wheel. It's no one's knowledge to claim, it's no one's work to claim. There's so many people who message me saying they love my work. This is not my work. I've put these together, yes, I've acknowledged the code, but it's still not my work. This is the Supreme Being's work. It's so exciting because this is divine information. This is you connecting to Source, to the divine. So it is exciting. It's still not my work. I just acknowledged it. I realized it. There's everything working around a wheel and central black celestial sphere housing the constellations from the macro to the micro. See, that's why our human eye has blackness in the center. Why a black ball in the center of the human eye? Is that an accident? No, of course it's not, because we are a perfectly divine creation. There is no mistakes. Everything is a code within itself. The same way you have a URL code that'll take you to a website, a very specific website. Codes are not able to be broken or to be, what's the word? They're irrefutable, basically. You can't deny a code that repeats, and that's why I don't mind when people tell me I'm wrong, because you can say I'm wrong, but you can't deny something that's already happened, something that's in front of you. A code that repeats is not an accident, and it's not. You can't say it's not, because it is. It's right in front of you. And that's why I said I may not have all the scientific answers, but there is no one on this earth that can disprove this. I don't care your equation, I don't care your degree, I don't care. You cannot disprove this, because a code does not lie, their pattern does not lie. Ancient texts don't lie. Ancient depictions of our universe being a grander man don't lie. That's what I mean. It matches to a T. And so, I've said this many times, and I keep saying it because it gets really annoying when people want to use this quote but not apply it. If you're going to use the quote, you have to apply the quote. This quote is a formula. So you have to apply it, not just repeat it. As above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the soul. Apply the code. Apply the code, this is what you get. As above, so below. As the universe, so the soul. As within, so without. Wrong one. As within, so without. So we can either apply that code or repeat it and say it but not understand what we're applying it to. The two are one. The micro, the macro, the above, the below. The two are one. Yin and yang. The good and the bad, the light and the dark, the positive and the negative, the Smith and the Anderson. No, codes are not linear. Nothing is linear. Nothing is a straight line in this universe. Mother Nature does not know straight lines. There is no straight line. That's why I say we can either acknowledge the code to creation or we can think we know. People who expect, with this concave theory or this concave model, people who expect to visually see their reality distort or invert, either upward or downward, do not fully understand nor respect the grand scale of the macrocosm. Just because we may live on the inside of a ball does not mean you're going to physically see your entire reality bending upward. Again, you have to pay respects. You're the microcosm to the macrocosm. We'd have to live in a very small structure or environment in order to physically see it being bent, but that's why it's not so small. You have to take into account many things. Light propagation. And like I said, I know I don't have all the answers, all the technical answers that people are searching for. But when something is right, you know it's right. You feel it. You can feel it in your soul, in your spirit. It feels right. And as I've said, some of this I've been shown through DMT, which, like I said, I do not encourage to anyone, but I kind of did cheat. I kind of hacked into the collective consciousness, and I took that from what I saw. I was shown an enclosed universe, because that was the only possible way I saw it being. It was the only possibility. It was almost like Doctor Strange in the Avengers movies when he has the time stone. He has the time stone. He can look into every single possibility that would ever be the outcome. He could look into every single possibility. And there was only one that would work. That's basically what it was for me. I wanted to understand the creation, the creator, the creator's mind, God. And I was like almost in the driver's seat. And like I said, it's not just me, it's anybody. We're all that, beyond the body. We're all one. And another thing I want to say in this video publicly is I am not affiliated, nor do I support LSC. LSC, Concave Earth, is his name. On YouTube, his name is LSC. He's another Concave Earth person. He teaches the concave model. But he also is getting people to tattoo his logo on him. He's getting people to call him God or Lord or Master. And he's getting people to give him money and bow to him. Literally bow to him. Tattoo his logo on him. This man is probably the worst thing that could happen to this knowledge. Because, of course, many people are now going to distort it by associating all of us with this nutfuck douchebag in the head, yeah? But I'm definitely not in affiliation with that guy. I don't support him. I'm basically doing the exact opposite he's doing. He's trying to get people to worship him as the one God, and then what I'm trying to do instead is show everyone that we are all one. We are all this one thing we're calling God. We're all a collective consciousness. And I'm trying to help liberate everyone together from this matrix, from this system that has been taken source and basically mocked it. They're worshiping the material world. The elites are worshiping the material world. That's why they seek to control the material world. The elites don't understand. The elites don't get it. They're not working in sync with the divine. They're working against it by abuse. And that's why things like Atlantis happen. Nature will wipe you out. Your technology will wipe you out. All these things come from man, from our own minds. We're wiping ourselves out. We're all a collective consciousness. We can only hurt ourselves in the long run. We can only enslave ourselves in the long run. You see, this is something flat earthers they're not ready for. They're still playing the game of pretending. They're flirting with the idea of awakening. Because most of them are still saying, well, no, there's a divine creator that created me, and they're posing the idea again, it's not me, it's anything but me. And that's how you know they're flirting. They're flirting with the idea that they've awakened. That's why there is a reason, there's a warning on this video. I understand where flat earthers are coming from, because I was once in their shoes. I once thought that it was something other than me. I once thought that there had to be something more to it. So I understand why they deny concave earth so passionately, because they've just had their entire reality taken from them, and now that they feel they've grasped it, or they have a hold of it again, it's being challenged again or hit with something else. And so of course they're going to deny concave earth. Of course they're going to be hostile toward this, because they want to have their reality figured out, organized. But that's the test. Do you want truth? Or do you want your ideas? Your ideas of what could be, what should be. It's a pill many of us have to take. Like I said, I was in tears my first trip. I wasn't ready for any of it. I've openly said it many times. I was not ready for any of it. I tried denying it. I tried putting it away. I tried not speaking about it. I tried hiding it. I wasn't ready. Acceptance, though. Acceptance brought me a long way. I had to openly admit to people who followed me, I was wrong. It's not flat. I've seen otherwise. I've experienced otherwise. Logically so. A person who's in it for truth has no fear of openly admitting he's wrong. That's growth. That's strength. That means you do want to be right. You do want to be true. It doesn't matter how much you ever have invested in what you are teaching. If it's wrong, it's wrong. That's how you grow. That's how you reach the actual truth. So as far as I know, me and Gemini, I don't know if some of y'all know him or not. Gemini, I don't know his last name, and I don't want to mispronounce it, but as far as I know, we are one of the two original concave earthers who aren't corrupt. Because like I said, LSC has taken this and turned it into a cult-like worshipping of himself. He has a young kid by the name of Michael, I believe his name is, who looks not even 20 years old, with this poor kid, his logo's tattooed across his chest. And he has this kid so brainwashed, so lost, so deluded, he's worshiping this man. He's telling people that they need to worship him as the actual God, or he's the only way to salvation. The kid's so far lost, and it's because of this guy, LSC. Not a good man. That's not what truth is about. You're not supposed to be reliant on any teacher, any speaker. They're supposed to liberate you from yourself. They're supposed to be the reflection of you that reminds you of Source. They're supposed to connect you back to Source with yourself. They're not supposed to keep you coming back. A speaker or a teacher that keeps you coming back is either a business or they're in it for their ego. One that wants to see you heal will show you the healing within yourself. They won't need you to come back because it's not about you, it's about them. That's simple. I'm going to end this video though and go finish my day. Thanks to everyone who watched, thanks to everyone who listened, thanks to everyone who shared. Be cautious who you do share it with, this video with though, because like I said, there is a warning label on it, so not everyone needs to hear it. But if you found this video useful, thank you. Thanks for listening. If not, you can message me, jump off a cliff or whatever. The norm, it's all good. Thank you.